Hello, everyone. This is your host, Susan Rosen. And my guest today is Natasha Trenev. And she's here to talk to us about a number of things, but primarily probiotics, and then how that kind of goes into all of our lives and should be going into all of us bodily as well. But welcome, Natasha. And
Thank you.
I'm going to throw it over to you to introduce yourself and get the conversation kind of started, since you're the expert here.
As she said, I'm Natasha Trenev, and I'm the founder and president of Natren. I introduced with my husband 40 years ago the category of probiotics and the whole concept. I didn't think of the word, but I did introduce the category. And it took me about 20 years for people to even know what I was talking about. And many years working with the best minds in the world, clinical professors, doctors, researchers, we've come to understand, and now it's been proven, that every health and disease aspect of your life begins in that 27 feet of GI tract. And we really need to know that better than our phone operating system, because that operating system that runs our body is what's going to give us the health and the energy to do the other things that we like. So some highlights: I've done thousands of interviews. I've done television, radio, podcasts. I've set the standard for probiotic labeling that was read into a congressional record in 1995. And I've worked for the industry to try to keep it in a more of an honest fashion to sell products. But unfortunately, in the last, I would say 15 years, things have really been controlled by marketing programs rather than excellence in product. And it's not just in probiotics. It's really across the board. Growing up in the health food industry, dietary supplements, I'm sad to say that 80% of all the products still sold do not meet their label declaration of ingredients. And that's very concerning to me, especially in the field of probiotics, because I firmly believe, and science has proven me right, that we can change anything in our body if we give it the right tools to heal itself. And since the microbes we are a hybrid of microbes and human cells, and the microbes always outnumber us, it's important for us to understand that operating system and that ecosystem if we want to gain and maintain health.
Yeah. And just to kind of follow on from that as well, I think that even the last 30 years or 40 years is that people, they just kind of skim over stuff until they actually get ill, or somebody close to them actually gets ill. And that's when they actually start putting some time and effort and money into buying things that are good and have in them what it says on the label, as they say on the tin.
Yeah, well, we used to have a very, tight-knit group in the health food industry that used to watch this all the time. But unfortunately, that industry has changed. And so, like I said, we all have to come armed with that information, because it's not the lack of information. There's all kinds of gut gurus. Leaky gut has been thrown around, weight loss, weight gain, health, mind health. All of these are great topics, and they're very well presented. The problem is, and continues to be, the solutions and the products that are recommended. And since, probiotic research and manufacturing is like rocket science, it's easy to fool people because we're not adept at identifying what's really necessary to survive formulation, production, transportation, and to survive stomach acid and bile in order to do us any good in that 27 feet of GI tract. And before we started, I was telling Susan, my main concern is that $4.3 trillion are spent on American healthcare, but we have 80% chronic diseases. It's one of the highest numbers in the world, if not the highest. And we're spending a tremendous amount of money keeping people just short of dying, but we're not healthy. And it's the same with our children. I also work with the autism community. And the numbers, when I started in the 1980s, the numbers were 1 in 10,000 children that would be born with a spectrum of autism. Yeah. Now it's 1 in 30. And if the numbers keep going the way it was predicted, by 2030, it's going to be 1 in 2. And if you're an older person, say, well, why is this any concern of mine? Because that just shows you that chronic disease is not only part of the older or what I call the mature set, but it's definitely part of the children, and then manifests and keeps getting worse as we age. So we are responsible for making sure that we understand the differences and what really works in the body and what doesn't. If we don't arm ourselves with that information, you're going to see more chronic disease and a lot of unhealthy people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree. I totally agree. And on top of that, there are individual issues that each of us have as to what our bodies can deal with well or not,
Yes.
So it's not always a one size fits all kind of solution. And I think that's the biggest problem we run into these days.
Right. And so that's why I know the ecosystem is very diverse and complex. We have about 100 trillion microbes that line that 27 feet. If you would just take out your small intestine and stretch it, it would cover a tennis court. So we're talking about a huge field where all the absorption and processing of our food and the avoidance of disturbing the immune cells that line that whole intestinal tract, not just the small intestine, but everywhere. And there's a communication going on with lightning speed called photon light emission, and there's communication going on every nanosecond in your body, and you don't want that communication to be negative or something that doesn't support the health of your body. So we've created this problem where we've got over 200 chemicals in our food, we've got chemicals in our air, we've got chemicals in our water, and that's why we are so chronically ill. And I even tell the young women who want to become vegan, I said, well, that's great, that's a personal choice, but you better take a crash course in Indian cooking, because that's the only cultural group I know that's figured out how to take care of the body through a vegan diet. It's not for you to run to the health food store and buy something called oat milk or almond milk, which is not even a milk, and it's a highly processed food. So the reason I give that example is because people think they're eating healthy, but in the long run, genetically, we're not designed to digest and use those foods. The reason we become allergic to the staples is because the staples have been adulterated from where they come. And pretty soon, if we don't turn this around, we're going to be allergic to everything.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And the other part of that as well, the other side of that kind of, or that's not the right word, but the other part is that we lose the ability to digest the food in our stomachs because the acid goes down, and if we don't break it down, we're not going to get any of the good stuff.
Yeah, your body is a biochemical engine, and the whole purpose of the stomach is, one, to digest protein and kill the bacteria that come in as background noise on any food. There's no sterile food. And a lot of us have now gone several generations without even being taught basic sanitary conditions in the kitchen and how to handle food. And so we're introducing many more microbes because of this lack of understanding and sort of sloppiness. And we sort of trust all the restaurant owners and servers to really understand sanitation and to think about it. Most of them don't even do it viciously. They've just never been taught about how to handle food and what the consequences are if you don't handle it in a sanitary fashion.
Absolutely.
And that's another reason we're seeing an explosion of autoimmune disease, because that's what autoimmune is, where your body is misdirected to destroy the cellular structure rather than finding
your
the
own.
intruder
Yeah.
that might be causing the problem. So, I could get technical and tell you, but everywhere you look, it's, this design that's been culturally passed on from generation to generation historically, but was disrupted about 50, 60 years ago in this country when people wanted convenience and they forgot the origin of their food and why this food was so essential to our physical, mental health, and not allowing our body to deteriorate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And the other part of that as well is all of the chemicals that they put in to make sure that the food is all fresh, right, when it gets there, which is even worse sometimes than eating organic food that isn't particularly fresh, but it's still at least still food,
Yeah. No, and the thing is that the reason we have problems with sugar and salt in our society, because once foods are frozen or processed, the only thing you will taste is either salt or sugar. So they load the products with salt and sugar so that you can become addicted to the taste, and they can sell you more of that stuff. But it's actually murder. I tell people, look, you actually do need salt in your diet, but you shouldn't be consuming processed food, because without salt, your body cannot form stomach acid. And I said, everything that we know that should be occurring in our body has been turned upside down. So that's the tragedy, that we have to go back to basics, and we really have to figure out who knows what they're talking about. I've worked with the greats in this industry, and I'm blessed to say so. But we've really gone away from having those true gurus that didn't claim they knew everything, but what they did talk about, they did an in-depth vertical study and were knowledgeable and spoke with authority, and would not allow any product to be sold that didn't strictly conform to what they were teaching. And this is somehow gone in our industry. I see all these beautiful young people promoting something, yet down deep inside, these people are not really healthy. They look great, but at the smallest turn, they'll end up with a cold or they get something else. So they're not truly healthy. They look healthy, but they're not truly healthy.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's I'm always just, I'm amazed. I mean, I have a couple of step grandchildren who are in their 20s, but excuse me, even just the kind of foods that they eat just on a regular basis, and they're both very athletic and everything. But you just kind of look at it and go, oh my God, are you really eating that?
Yeah.
You're actually putting that in your body.
Yeah. Well, no, I tell people the best way to get fruits and vegetables is to eat the real kind. And I always tell people, sit down, get rid of your devices, chew your food, and the food itself should have a beautiful, wonderful flavor. You don't have to put tons of salad dressing in your salad if the salad ingredients are truly grown in a fashion that they're allowed to exhibit their wonderful natural flavors and taste. And you can just enhance it with a little salt and extra virgin olive oil. And I happen to like rice vinegar. And that's about all you need. If you're loading up your salad with salad dressing to kill the taste, because usually those processed salads that you get from somebody have been washed in chemicals and they don't have a taste. That's why people don't like vegetables, because those salads literally don't have a taste.
Yes. And I was going to say, in vegetables, people don't know how to cook vegetables.
No.
They're always overcook them, so it's all like mush.
Well, and I come from Eastern Europe, and we like to saute our vegetables, which is very nice with onions and other flavors, and vegetables become delicious. So I think everybody has to get back to basics. But basically what's wrong in the world is that because of the abuse of chemicals in our pesticides, and by the way, virtually all pesticides are powerful antibiotics. That's why glyphosate found in Roundup, the weed killer, was sued for causing cancers because it destroyed the microbiome. And that's why those people got those cancers. And most people don't even know that. So, and I think that's done by design, that they give these chemicals complex names, so most people are unaware what their true function is. And then we get to a point where by the time we're 50, we're taking 4 to 6 to 7 pharmaceutical drugs to control symptoms. And our body's magnificent. It was not designed to decay. It was designed to work. And then when it feels like it no longer wants to work, then it stops working. But, nobody should be ending up in a nursing home and facilitated home. They should be able to die in their sleep if they're doing the right thing and not have all those problems. I say Western medicine is magnificent if you have an urgent situation where you need to control a symptom, or you're, God forbid, in a hospital from some terrible problem, but you should not be consuming pharmaceutical drugs on a daily basis for years.
No, I agree. I totally,
So we have to have an overhaul, and I tell people, that's why I stay in the probiotic field, because all of those people selling those products didn't actually research them, didn't formulate them, and don't actually make them. And so the marketing team comes in and tells them how the product has to be marketing, and then they force the group that's formulating to accommodate the marketing and not the science to help those bacteria really survive and actually do you any good. And what's going to happen is that people will churn and say, oh, I've taken probiotics, but they don't do anything for me, and then churn away from this most important concept for health and vitality and longevity throughout the years.
No, and that makes perfect sense. And the other unfortunate side of it as well is that all of the, not just the probiotics, but the whole supplement industry is got all of these doctors, right, that keep floating into this thing, and they've got their own probiotics and they have their own vitamins and this kind and that kind, and most of it, they're just out to make the money.
Yeah. Well, my first question is, can anybody tell me where in medical school they teach you about formulation? They don't.
They don't, no.
And just because you can read research data doesn't mean that and none of those doctors, because I know firsthand, none of those doctors or those clinics that are selling the private label have ever formulated, make it, and really have checked the formulation to see if it has those ingredients that's listed on the label. They just sell it in good faith to their patient because, hey, it's a good, revenue stream. It's a good profit center. That's how they run clinics now. It's a good profit center. But, the horror is that I can take a look at the retail price and I can immediately tell if the active ingredient is even in there or at that amount that they're claiming on the label.
Wow.
And that's the tragedy, because, people should be trusting the people who stand behind a company and a concept. And if they have 50 products that they're selling you, the first question should be, who's standing behind each one of those products and checking to make sure they actually contain what they claim on the label.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I got very unpopular when I started asking those questions.
I bet you do.
It's like, no. And I sat for 10 years on standards committees to the various health food associations. And we tried for years to get something called True Label. And we could not get it passed because people said it was bad for business. And I still to this day cannot understand. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I told something that I knew was wrong. But, this is where it is. And so my whole purpose of doing
Mm-hmm.
this is to not to sell anybody any product.
Mm-hmm.
My whole purpose is to tell them that our microbiome has been compromised, especially in the Western world, and has been
For sure.
compromised significantly. That's why we have problems like depression, addiction, anxiety, and even post-traumatic syndrome, autism. All of these things that used to be
Allergies.
relatively rare are now significantly higher, double-digit
Mm-hmm.
higher. And those all lead to the gut. And then a lot of young people I talk to have ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, high blood pressure. I mean,
Oh my
just things
God.
that we never used to see in young people, colon cancer,
Yeah.
among people who are 49 or younger, a 20% increase in the last decade. And let's
Oh
not
my
even
God.
talk about the older generation. Cancer,
Yeah.
colon cancer has exploded. And I tell
Wow.
people why. With all the tests that everybody's doing, how is that helping you? Not helping much, according to the
No,
stats.
no, because all they do is give them more pills, right?
Yeah, yeah. So we have to decide, what we're going to do to our body. What is our genetic background? We need to
Mhm.
consume healthy fats, fresh foods, and sit down, chew the foods. And unfortunately, you do have to take a proper probiotic supplement because
Mhm.
of the environmental shifts that have been caused by us.
Mm.
All the healthy cultures in the past that I've studied had a fermented food like a yogurt, which we introduced
Right.
to this country, or a kefir, which my
Mhm.
family also introduced to this country.
Mm.
The problem was they weren't consuming all these drugs, chemicals in their food and their air and their water. And there wasn't this kind of massive disruption in the health of the microbiome. For instance, to give you another stat that should make people concerned, is only 7% of mothers in this Northern American hemisphere are even able to pass along the beneficial bacteria necessary for their infant's health. It's called Bifidobacteria infantis. You don't have to
Mhm.
remember that. But they're not able to pass this microorganism, which was designed to be specifically fed by the components found in breast milk. So even
Mhm.
if you're born vaginally and breastfed, if your mother wasn't one of those 7% of women, you're not going to get the right bacteria. And why is this so important to infant
Mhm.
physical and mental health? Because this bacteria is one of the very rare few that can actually set up a tolerance between the food coming in and the immune system. Because if this tolerance is not set up and the immune system is downregulated, if it's hyperactive, it leads to food sensitivities, allergies, asthma. Another problem, asthma among children, exploding
Oh
numbers.
wow.
And it's because we were designed to create this symbiotic relationship between these microbes and the moment we're born. And by the way, there's no sterile environment in the body. I used to argue with OBGYNs all the time. I said, the womb is not sterile. Nothing in the body is sterile, including your brain cells. They have bacteria in there as well that, work together or work against each other. So the bacteria are everywhere in our body. So the most important thing we can learn is who knows the information, what should be done to keep the mother and the father healthy, because both the mother and the father contribute to the infant's microbiome. And this is what we have to go back and relearn and figure out who knows what should be done and what we should do with our diet and how we should continue with our diet, because we cannot continue down this path because it's going to destroy our society.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can, but unfortunately, it's got bad things happening.
Well, yeah, and if you've ever seen a family that has to deal with an autistic child, you'll find out it's extremely difficult. And by golly, if we have 1 and 2, it will destroy our society.
Oh yeah, yeah. No. That's very scary.
Mm-hmm.
Very scary.
So I could give you more stats, and my whole point is not to scare you. I
Right.
always tell people, since your body rebuilds itself every year, you have an opportunity to help your body rebuild it with healthy cells,
Okay.
And so, people don't know this, that your body loses 10 million cells a minute, and it has to be able to produce good protein to replace those cells. One of the things that happens when we change our diet radically and we're not able to produce good proteins, but produce cheap proteins, that's when disease starts manifesting, because we're not replacing that cellular structure with healthy proteins.
Okay.
And no doctor will tell you this because that's not top of mind. It's not disrespecting the doctor, because they were taught to treat symptoms. All the clinical trials were designed to obscure everything else that's in the body, but to treat that symptom. And I said, that's terrific if you have an emergency or urgent care, but not terrific if you want to have long and healthy life.
Yes. And I think along with that is the thing of, you get this feeling that if they tell you you should do X, Y, and Z, that applies to everybody.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not necessarily true either.
Yeah. And the biggest problem, what I see with the elderly, is this popping of these antacids. I don't think people understand how dreadful and damaging that is, because just imagine the acid in the stomach will not break down the proteins. You don't break down the proteins, how are you going to rebuild yourself? Number two, if it doesn't kill the bacteria coming in through your food, water, or air, that's going to get into your GI tract, and that's where it's going to start fighting with your immune system to gain entry into your body. Once it gains entry into your body, then the disease states start. And I kept it simple for a reason, because I talked to people who have been on antacids or proton pump inhibitors for 2, 3, 4 years. And I said, now you're seeing problems with the lungs, respiratory disease, because those bacteria that are not killed are getting into the respiratory system. You're seeing this explosion of a SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, very difficult to treat and very painful. So, and I've always sit down and talk to the doctor. I said, do you ever sit down and explain to the patients? No, I'm told that because they're given a prerogative. They're not allowed to spend more than 7 minutes, maximum 20 minutes if there's a severe problem, but that's it. Otherwise, they don't get paid.
Scary, huh?
Yeah, it is very scary. So, it's not a criticism, but I think people should know.
No.
I mean, if you think this is perfectly okay, then you should keep doing what you're doing. I'm not here to tell you what you're doing is wrong or right. I'm just telling you what I know from 54 years of being in this field and helping multiple people regain their health and keep their health. And that's what I'm doing it, because that was the whole purpose of the movement, is to help people regain their health. And somehow we lost that concept.
Yes, for sure. Well, and it's interesting too that when you were talking about the stomach acid and all of that, a lot of people, when they're having problems with their stomach, it's not because they have too much acid, it's because they don't have enough.
Correct.
And so they start putting these proton pump or whatever to kill the little bit of acid that they might have, instead of going and actually buying something that's going to help bring more acid into it.
Help your digestion. The whole purpose of your digestive tract is to digest, keep your immune system happy, and rebuild your body. If it's not doing that, then you're in trouble. And God knows we have so many autoimmune diseases, we don't even have names for them. It's just horrific. And I always tell people, when you hear a name of a disease, do your homework, find out what caused this disease. Where did it come from? How is it affecting the function of your body? And learn the whole thing. Don't just learn about what that's disrupting in your body to take a pill to stop the disruption, but figure out where it came from, how it overtook your body, which is so smart and so brilliant. What did you do to cause that?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You
And
know,
like I said, again, we need to know our operating system better than this operating system. No, everybody learns this operating system. And I said, yes, this is important. I guess in the modern society, you can't do without it. But I said, you're not going to be able to use the iPhone operating system if this operating system is not functioning.
yeah, yeah. The only thing you'll be able to do is call the hospital. I think that's
Yeah,
about it, right?
yeah. And then, I've talked to extremely wealthy people and they can't travel because they've eaten something now, they've gotten infected, they've got something in there and they can't digest. They're miserable. They can't do anything because they have no energy and they just feel awful all the time. And they start losing weight because their body can't digest food. And this has been going on for about, I would say 20, 30 years. And
Wow.
it's not getting in the news, the number of young people who just get to the point where they have bleeding in their intestines or they cannot absorb food and they start losing weight. And it's not because they're Biafra victims, God forbid, or that they're anorexic. Their body just is incapable of digesting the food and
Yeah.
absorbing it.
Yeah.
And it's pretty scary. You see these people, they just sort of wilt because their body stops doing what it's designed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically what I wanted, to tell people and to
Yeah.
tell them that, I'm here. My company's here to help you. Like I said, I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm an old-fashioned health food aficionado that believes in what I do, and I've helped
Mm-hmm.
millions of people across the globe. And I just want to make sure that people understand the choices and what choice they need to make if they really want to regain their health or stay healthy.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And if they've got kids, now's the time to get a hold of
Oh
them.
yeah. Oh yeah. The kids I see all the time chronically ill. They should never be chronically ill. They should be healthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're
No,
allergic to everything. They can't go outside. They can't enjoy their life.
yeah.
They've got inhalers because they're stuffed up. They can't breathe. It's devastating.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I understand. I have allergies myself, but I
We
just
all
kind of
do.
wander around.
Yeah, we all do because we're all exposed to the stuff that's being sprayed in the
Yeah.
air.
Oh yeah, that too. That too. Well,
And
I personally do my best not to eat any of that kind of stuff,
no, but I
you
mean,
know.
it's in the air. You breathe it in. You
Oh
know,
yeah. Oh no, no, absolutely.
and so that's why we're having all these problems with children not being able to digest, not able to
Mm-hmm.
breathe, not able
Yeah.
to function as a child.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
if I may, I'd just
Yes.
like to invite your listeners to
Uh-huh.
contact us at Natren. It's natren.com. I still
Okay.
have people, what I call not so young, but youthful,
Uh-huh.
that are still working with me, some of them for 23 years. And we're not a telemarketing company, we're an old fashioned health food company. We're there to help
Uh-huh.
you. And what we do, what's different than everybody, our probiotic products are different.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the name has been manipulated and used. We actually help you design a custom system for yourself that will suit you because
Mm-hmm.
all of us have a unique composition of microbiota that's unique to us,
Mm-hmm.
like our fingerprint. And
Right.
so we, give you, one pill if you just want to take our one super pill, which all of our products are unique. That means that there are no other products in the world that are like us. And I only choose probiotic bacteria that have
Mm-hmm.
evolved with Homo sapiens and that have been in the literature for at least 100 years and are
Uh-huh.
safe at any levels. I don't believe in throwing in huge mixes of bacteria so they splash on the label. That's not causing diversity. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
cheaper way to make thousands of private labels by just shifting names on the ingredient statement. And since
Uh-huh.
most people, even microbiologists, don't know all of those names, how would the
Oh.
consumer know? It just looks good to them. Oh, look at all these different bacteria.
Yeah.
Well, first of all,
Right.
you're lucky if all of them are in there. Second of
Yes.
all, if they're not in there at the right number and healthy, they're not going to do you any good. And third, they're forced to touch each other because there's no dynamic system. There's no food going in or food going out of the capsule. And they're not dormant. So they're reproducing, and they get to a point where they get stressed or damaged and die. So they're not going to be able to survive stomach acid or bile. So they're virtually going to do minimal amount of good, if any, in your body. So the packaging may look sexy. The thought that they're telling you it's shelf stable, which is a myth. There's no such thing as a shelf stable bacteria. Just think logically. Why do you put food in your refrigerator? Because you want to stop the bacteria from growing, right? So why would you want to have the bacteria continue growing if you put the product on the shelf when it's not being fed and there's no waste going out? How is that going to help you? And when I challenge people with that thought, they say, "Oh, maybe she has a point." So it's very easy. Just ignore all the stuff that tells you chef staple and buy a product in the refrigerator. We come in brown amber glass with a tin lid, and that's to protect it from moisture and light or anything that can trigger a life cycle and cause it to stress and die before it reaches your stomach. The products that we design also survive stomach acid and bile. And so that's why they actually work, because every process has been thoroughly thought through to make sure that the bacteria are healthy when they reach your GI tract. And the bacteria are actually grown on substances they like, because they choose the food that they want to grow in, because they're quite a bit smarter than we are, because they will not waste their cellular energy and consume something that they don't like.
Yeah, or isn't good for them.
It's not good for them, yeah. So you have to choose the substrate or the substance it grows on. You have to make sure you've got the most viable bacteria, the healthy cells, and then you have to help them survive all these obstacles so that they can actually implant in your GI tract, thrive, and do some good for you. And then people say, well, why do I have to take it every day? Because it's a dynamic system. About 40% of your dry weight fecal matter is bacteria. So you are a dynamic biosystem where these bacteria are coming in and they're going out the other end. And actually, that's part of what causes aging, because as you age, they don't like you anymore and they start leaving your body. And so that's a phenomenon that's quite interesting. That, because we were designed to age. Past 40, we become a much less desirable environment for them to thrive. So they don't stick around in the numbers that we need. So especially if you hit 40, you should be talking about this every day and find the amount that you need to take every day, not only to maintain your health, but to improve your health.
Interesting. So is that something that one should do by trying different levels of probiotics?
Yeah, well, no, that's why I ask you. Yeah, that's why I ask people to call and not just buy online, because it is a complex issue. And like I said, if you call our toll-free number, I still have live people there that have been me 10, 15, 23 years, and they've talked to millions of people. And our whole objective is to get the right program for you. And we have special deals. And like I said, that's why I'm working. I should have gone away long ago, but can't, because it's my baby and I can't allow it to be manipulated and destroyed. So so if you write this down, the number is 866, the number 4, and the word Natren spelled out, which is Natren, and just go for the consumer. Let's say Consumer Direct. If you don't get somebody right away, you can leave your name and give them a best time to reach you, and they'll call you back. And I assure you that 80% of the people who have bought from us stay, because they tell us they get the best health results that they've ever gotten, and they're very committed to maintaining that health result. Because that is the foundation. Once you fix the foundation, then it's easy to fix the other things.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And then the website is natren.com.
That's correct. You can still go to, and the website, we have hundreds of blogs. I've done thousands of interviews. Not even all of them are up there. Most of them are radio interviews because we couldn't get the television shows that I did on. But I think the interviews are very interesting. I think you get a lot of information. I have a lot of interviews with doctors, and I've done grand rounds. I've taught doctors about this concept many years ago. So there's a ton of information. If you want to learn, it's there. And it's easy to understand because I avoid using what I call fancy terminology, because my whole process is to teach people, not to impress them by my vocabulary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't sell these things by by how much you can talk around them, right?
Yeah, right. So I try to make it simple and make people understand, why I got into this and why it's so important, and why it's even more important going forward, because we have these problems, we're not addressing them, and people are not getting better.
No, that's very true. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, I want to thank you.
Okay.
I want to thank all your listeners.
Thank you.
Reach out to me. I'm here to help you, and I would love to help you.
Well, good. I will put all your information in the show notes as well.
Okay. Thank you.
And I will wrap up here by saying thank you to you for coming on, spending the time here online with me, and that neither of us are doctors, and this is not medical advice. And with that, I will just say that I'll talk to everybody next week.
Thank you. Have a great one.